Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dear Jill, the podcast that's all about you. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's on your mind. Have you got any problems, dilemmas, funny things that have happened to you? Whatever. Get in touch with us. Just leave us a voice note at the Dear Jill podcast Instagram page, and hopefully you'll be on the show. So, I've been thinking about something.
Here we go. This could be anything.
She's always thinking about something. You know, when you think about something and then something either presents itself or you read something, you think that is it. That's exactly what I've been thinking. So I've been sort of thinking a lot lately about sort of life and sort of how seriously I can take life. And I know people say, you know, I don't take myself seriously, but I take my work seriously, blah, 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 blah. It's like, what does that kind of really mean? And I think, and I'm not excusing myself, and I think this is probably something that maybe a lot of people could relate to if they're listening, who have been through some sort of trauma or loss, just something that has shaken the very foundations of who they are. I think that the effort that is required to sort of get yourself back up and feeling a part of the world again, it can feel so difficult, and it takes so much courage to muster to be able to just say, yes, I'm coming back and I'm going to face the world again. And I think the overhang of that, certainly for me, has been a little bit that then I haven't been able to let go of how hard I've been trying. Does that make sense? Like I've been trying, like a little girl, like I've tried really hard. And I think, yes, I have tried really hard, but those things aren't happening now. So I need to stop trying so hard. I need to like let go, as they say, surrender. So I was on my phone and I saw this quote, and it just really, really summed up how I was feeling, and it was like it was written for me. So this is from Aldous Huxley, who is an English philosopher. It says, "It's dark because you're trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even though you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. Throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly."
Oh.
And I was like, that's it. That's the thing. It's like having the faith to kind of go, I don't need to make things happen. I don't need to make things okay. Things are okay. And life will life and things will happen. But, you know, just treading lightly, I think that's going to be like my new mantra. Does that like resonate with you at all?
Yes, in a way, because I feel like a lot of times you get sort of caught up, don't you, in the life's really life, and I've got to really go and do things. I've got to be this way. I've got to be that way. I've got to look a certain way. I've got to do all these things. And you think, and then you get the existential crisis or that thing that happened. You think, why do I put all this stress on me?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that before on the podcast. But treading lightly that's interesting of letting go. Are you feeling all right by being able to let go?
Yeah, it actually feels more like freedom. Because I think there's a sort of lie that you tell yourself that you're the one in control, you're the one making things happen, and you're the one responsible for when things happen and you have to put them right. Whereas in actual fact, there are certain things we can do. Yeah, we can put in action and we can do the next right thing. But other than that, you just have to keep walking, don't you? You just have to keep going forward, but with a lightness. And that's kind of what I feel like that's what I'm walking into of late. I feel like I've come out of a tunnel of sorts, and I've learnt loads, and it's all been, difficult, but it's been in some ways quite wonderful. But now I feel like, okay, I'm like walking into the field, and it feels a bit lighter, and it feels like I can just sort of relax a bit more, maybe just have faith that the universe has my back and that I was going to say things will be okay. And that doesn't mean to say that nothing bad will happen. Like, I'm totally aware that things will happen, but it's just me holding on so tight doesn't stop those things from happening. So if I can just let go and be a bit lighter, I think it'll just make me happier.
Well done for being able to be like, that's what's happening. However, you are talking to the biggest control freak that you've ever met in your life. So letting go for me seems scary.
Right.
Tell me it's not.
So if you're like, imagine these are handlebars,
Yeah.
and you're at a 10.
Yeah.
What about if you just took them to a 7?
I'm not sure.
I'm not asking you to let go.
Oh, you're not.
I'm not asking you to freestyle. Just saying, just let go. Just let them to 7 and just see how it feels, and then we can check in again. Yeah.
Deal.
Deal.
You've got it.
If I had longer arms, we could do that.
Anyway, yeah. Well, let's try and help other people letting go.
Yes.
Our first voice note is from Steph.
Dear Jill, Steph here. And here is my dilemma. I've been in a relationship with my boyfriend for almost 2 years now, and lately things feel like they're not quite the same. We used to have so much fun together, but now it feels like we're constantly arguing over the small things, and I'm finding it hard to communicate with him. He's often distracted by his phone, and I can't shake the feeling that he's fully present when we're together. I've tried talking to him, but he brushes it off and gets defensive. I don't want to push him away, but I'm starting to feel like we're drifting apart, and I don't know what to do. Do you have any advice on how I can approach this situation without making it worse?
Without making it worse, because that's the tricky part with this, isn't it? When you feel like a relationship is going in the wrong direction, and you ask, is everything okay? Are you all right? Do we need to chat? And then that person keeps pushing back. No, it's fine. It's all right. There's nothing wrong. Then you think, well, I've just created more tension. I've just created more conflict. And then you're in this sort of horrible circle. The only thing you can do in this situation is ask the question again. And when they say everything's fine, you have to say, but it's not for me. It's not fine for me. Because when you ask the question to them, it sounds like you're saying, are you fine? Is everything okay with you? And whether they're deflecting or not is sort of none of your business, and you'll never know, because we don't know what's going on in other people's minds. Even if we love them and we feel very close to them, people can still withhold from us all day, every day. So you have to say, everything's not fine for me. This is how this feels for me. I feel like you're distant. I feel like you're distracted. I feel less close to you. I feel less connected to you. And that is making me feel that the future of this relationship is not what I thought it was going to be. And that hopefully is going to get their attention. And then the conversation happens. And you know what? Sometimes these conversations are really brilliant. Sometimes they really open things up and they just smash apart whatever weird energy you've got going on with someone, and you just have the best chat, and then on you go. And it was just a breakdown in communication, or it was somebody withholding, and it all comes out, all the cards get laid on the table, and off you go. And then other times it's maybe the beginning of the end. But the one thing I know for you, Steph, is that it's not making you happy the way it is now. And one of the traps that I certainly have fallen into in my life is wishing a relationship was like it used to be, rather than accepting what the relationship is like now. I'm always trying to go back to how something, but it used to be good, and we used to have so much fun, and we used to have a laugh, and they used to be like this. And it's like, okay, but like, if that's your language or those are your thoughts, you have to really say to yourself, but that's not how it is now. That is not how it is now. And I can't keep wishing for something to be like it was if that's not how it is. But got to have the chat and talk about it from your point of view. Don't ask them from if they're okay. Say, I'm not okay. and then see how that goes. And hopefully you'll get some honesty and some communication, because if you haven't got the communication, Emma, you haven't got anything, have you? There needs to be an exchange of truths when you're in those situations, when you know that you're at some sort of impasse in your relationship.
It's interesting how you say, like, you always think about how it used to be, and I can relate to that. You always think, oh, well, it might one day get back to the honeymoon stage, or we'll try and think we're not in a film, you know what I'm saying? But it's the importance of what Steph said as well, is I feel like he's not present. And it's like, did you used to be present? Did you never used to be present? What is being present? What does it mean to you? What does it look like to him? You know what I mean?
Definitely. You've got to, and they might, somebody, I've had this said to me before, well, I haven't changed. I'm exactly the same as I've always been. And then you have to say, okay, well, if that's how you say it, I've changed then. What used to be is not what I want anymore. I want something different, or I want something more, or I want it to change. So, but really, if the other person isn't prepared to communicate with you, then you're not going to get very far. So you just have to say, this has to happen. This conversation needs to be had. And hopefully someone's up for it, because without that, I don't think you have anything without good communication.
Communication is key.
Definitely. Remember, so there was a program when I was a kid called Record Breakers, and the guy who used to present it, I forgot his name. I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, he used to say, dedication, that's all you need, because that's what you needed to be a world record breaker. So I'm going to take his catchphrase and change it to communication, that's all you need. That was a very long-winded way getting to that point.
I'm going to find his name for you, just because everyone is
I'm a
still
record breaker, by the way.
You were on the TV show?
But I was with a lot of other people. It was the most people tap dancing at the same time. So we all learnt this tap routine. And then at a certain time on a certain day, we were in like the leisure centre in Gateshead. Everybody tap danced at the same time. And I can't remember how many of us there was, but we broke the record.
That's impressive.
And then about a week later, he was in the Metro Centre in Waterstones signing books. And I was with my mum, Roy Castle. Right, Roy Castle. And then I seen him in the Metro Centre. My mum was like, that's Roy Castle. I was like, I know. She's like, go and tell him you were I was like, no, I don't want to tell him. She's like, go and tell him. And there was a photographer there, I think from the Chronicle, a local paper. And I went up and I said, I was part of the tap dancing routine last week and I broke the record with you. And he made us get up and do it with him in the middle of the Metro Centre.
No way.
So I've got a picture of me and him like, give me sunshine in your eyes, tap dancing.
You clearly were you a tap dancer?
No, it was a really easy routine. I wasn't very good at tap. Yeah.
You reckon you can still do it?
Yeah, I could still do it. It was simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
but there you go. That's something you didn't know. I'm
A
a world record breaker.
To this day?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
We'll not bother. We'll just leave it there.
I think I'd like to leave it there. It's special.
We'll have our next voice note, which is from Carl.
Hi Jill, oh dear Jill, Carl in Northumberland here. I've got a bit of a, I feel quite bad asking this. I feel a bit guilty in light of what you've been through and some of these people that have been on your podcast. I'm very lucky in that I've never lost any family. I'm coming up to 40 and I haven't lost any family. And I have a massive anxiety about death and how am I going to cope? And I was just wondering, do you think maybe you should prepare for it or try and prepare? Or do you think it's something you just have to deal with when it happens? Sorry if this seems like I'm creating a problem that hasn't existed when people have one, but it is something that genuinely does. It affects me on a day-to-day basis. I do think about it quite often. I was just wondering what your thoughts would be. Thank you. Love the podcast. Love you. Bye.
Carl, I think that is something that either not a lot of people admit to thinking about or not a lot of people think about enough. I actually think it's really responsible and really emotionally mature to think about losing someone and how that might feel and how that might affect you. So no, I don't think it's silly at all. There's a woman called Catherine Mannix, and she wrote a book called With the End in Mind. And it's really all about her work with people who are at the end of their life. And she's brilliant. I would really recommend the book. But she talks about that all the time. She's like, we do not talk about death. People think that if they talk about death, they're going to make it sort of more likely to happen, or it's going to be some sort of weird curse, or, people think, oh, don't bring me down. But in actual fact, every single one of us are going to be on the receiving end of losing someone, and we're all going to die ourselves. So I think that it would be really healthy to have more conversations in schools and just in general, just with our mates about, how do you feel about it, and what are your fears, and how did you cope with it when it happened to you? And I think that all that is just sharing of information, isn't it? I mean, you would ask somebody, if they went to, I don't know, a club for the first time, how was it? How much were the drinks? What did you do? What's the best seat? What were the bouncers like on the door? So you would ask questions about somebody doing something for the first time. So I think that there's nothing wrong with approaching somebody who has lost and said, have you got any ideas? And the thing about it is, obviously, we're all completely different. So we are all going to react in slightly different ways. So I would never profess to know what your experience is going to be. But I think it's worth saying that the thing that I find the most common is that people feel very, very alone in their loss. And they feel like they can't reach out because not everybody goes through it at exactly the same time. So one of the things I would say to you is, when you do lose someone, and of course it will be painful, just always remember you're not alone. You're not alone. There are so many people. There are so many books that have been written. There are so many great speakers about it. And there are, cafes and clubs. And also just open up to your friends. A lot of people are scared to be the first one to bring it up. Just say to your friends, oh, this one's rough, like I'm struggling. How did you cope? Or, can you think of anything I could do like that would help? And just be as open as you have been to me about it to other people. And I think you'll be just fine, because not a lot of people would even think about that to preempt it. They would rather just put it in a little box and not think about it until the time comes. But yeah, have you ever thought about how you might feel? Or do you worry about
I'm
losing?
on Carl's side, definitely. I just think I'll get to that when I get to it.
Right, yeah.
It's interesting, like at the start of this podcast, you were like, I've been through all these things. I was in a tunnel and you got to see all this. And that's why you're given this advice. But I very much feel like I don't want to even look at the light,
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to even go towards that. So, yeah, definitely on the side of Carl. But how do you, if you're so frightened of it, what's some little steps you can make? I mean, obviously talking to your mates, but what even do you say? How do you phrase the conversation? Because it is something that you you don't want to talk about that with your mates, because it's not what you talk about.
I think one of the best things you could do is, if you do know of someone who has lost maybe someone who's lost a parent already, or I don't know, any sibling, whatever, if you know of someone who has experienced it, they're always going to be the people to approach first, because they will say, well, this is how it felt, or this is how it feels, and these are the things I did. And I mean, there's so much, advice out there, and you can do all the practical things. But that's the thing. He is preempting it, which is great, but you'll never really know how you're going to feel, because you just don't know the circumstance in which it's going to happen. And that does have a bearing on, I think, how you feel about how you lose someone. I spoke a couple of times on this podcast about losing my stepdad, and it being, it was sad, but it was quite a beautiful experience. And it really helped me, because the other two losses that I've had have been shocking and quite traumatic. So it was really lovely for me to have this experience. So, Carl his first loss might be a beautiful experience, and you might see the absolute truth and the beauty of knowing that we come in and we go out. And this is what happened. I mean, this is just life, isn't it? But then again, you might have a different experience, and there's just no right or wrong way to do it. All I know is that there are people out there who talk about it a lot. And this woman, Catherine Mannix, is somebody that you should definitely get his hands on her book, because she's amazing.
I always have that fear of, I don't want to upset them. You know, I don't want to, if
Yeah.
I asked you a question, I wouldn't want you to start crying because you're reliving it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a funny one, that when people say, oh no, I've upset you, and you think, oh no, you haven't. Like, believe
Okay.
me, like, you have not upset me. In fact, it's actually really lovely when somebody asks you about someone you've lost. It genuinely feels like they care. Because that's the thing, you know, people will talk about this a lot, but after you've lost someone, it can feel like they're forgotten about. So it's nice sometimes when people will say, you know, oh, when was like Matt's birthday, or oh, what did your dad like to eat, or was he into any sports? It's like it's keeping them present, and it's keeping them around you and alive. So there's so many different ways we do it, but just talking like this now is just helpful for someone, isn't it? And hopefully it'll be helpful for Carl.
Absolutely. And I mean, you say that, it sort of took me back when you said I had a beautiful
Experience.
Yeah, a beautiful experience. How?
Because my stepdad, who, you know, he's been my dad since I was 4, so I call him dad, but it's just I don't want to confuse people if, you know, if they know my story. He was in his late 80s, and he wasn't very well, and he was very much physically at the end of his life. And when somebody is physically at the end of their life, it is a release to let them go. It's hard for them to be here. Everything is an effort. Everything hurts. You're in pain. You're not cognitively like there as much as you used to be. And I had some really lovely, honest conversations where I knew that he also was ready.
Okay.
And I think when you have that, and when you know someone's ready, it is literally like releasing them. And it's almost like, oh yes, like you've done your time, you've been here, you've had a full and wonderful life. And he was surrounded by his family. And to me, that was like, if there's a way to go, surely that's the way. That's the way that I would want to go. So it was a real privilege for me to see that, and I was just by his side, and yeah, it was quite profound, you know. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this on the podcast about talking to children,
Mm-hmm.
about how you talk about death to a child, and that was one thing that. What am I trying to say? That I am really glad that I didn't see, as a child, I lost my grandma and granddad. I wouldn't want to see them like in that situation, you know, like unable to move, in a hospital bed, wherever it is. I wouldn't want to see that. So I'm really glad that my last vision of them in the head was I just said goodbye to them one day, and that was it. Where you have that vision of obviously sitting down, being with them side by side. Is that okay with you? Is that something you thought, yeah, thank God I was there with them?
You see, there is definitely two sides to those opinions, because for some people they say, I'm so glad I didn't see that person sick. I'm so glad that I only ever saw them at their absolute best. Or you think, oh, for a child, you know, you wouldn't want them to see somebody ill. But then I think there's also, for me, there's a part that's been missed out, because you saw that person and, or the dog or the cat, and they're absolutely fine. And then you go, oh, the cat's died, to the child, and you go, but it was fine. I seen it a week ago and it was fine. So sometimes for me, I'm like, is it not okay? And is this the part in society that we miss out? Is this the bit that we're frightened of? And it's like, it's okay to see deterioration. It's okay to see decay. It's okay to see why someone, or like a person or an animal, you know, eventually, you know, dies, because that's what happens. These bodies, they don't last forever. And I don't think it's a bad lesson to see or to learn. Obviously, there are extreme circumstances where someone's been in a huge amount of pain, or it's been particularly violent, which of course you wouldn't want to see that. But I think the part where the body starts to give up is not such a bad thing either. I think that's the part that people get very frightened about. And it's like, no, it's okay. It's letting go. It's just saying, I'm ready now. I'm done with this part, and now I'm going to the better part. Now I'm gonna really have fun.
Can be beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Obviously, you can talk about the emotions behind everything, but is there any sort of practical steps you can talk about with your parents and stuff like that?
Yes, there are. And I think, again, people are a bit scared about these conversations, but I wish we would all have more of them. So, for instance, you can, if it's parental, you can talk to them about, do you have all your affairs in order? Do you have any outstanding debts that I need to know about? Do you have a funeral plan? Things like that. It's which I know people go, oh, I don't want to talk about it. But honestly, the amount of paperwork that you have to do after somebody dies is really overwhelming, and especially if that person is not organized or hasn't expected to die, it can be really difficult pulling all that together. So a great act of love, in my opinion, would actually be able to say to someone, here is a folder, and in this folder is everything you will need to know about my bank, my properties, my debts, my life insurance, whatever. So all you need to do is ring these numbers and sort it out. And that will be a massive load off someone's shoulders, because it can be really overwhelming, that part of it. Searching through drawers. Do you know where the passport? Do you know where the driving license is? Oh, do you know where this? What would be the password for that? I mean, honestly, passwords. They're the bane of your life when you lose someone, because it's very difficult to get into somebody's personal information if you haven't got passwords. So things like that. So if people can, say to their parents, let's say, I would love for you to just draw up a little bit of paperwork with some things that would be really helpful, then I think that would be a really loving thing to do.
I think you've made me realise how much I don't know, to be honest.
You do realise how much you don't know, yeah.
Yeah, like, yes, I'm hiding the fact that I don't want to talk about it, but also now I'm thinking, but actually I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about it.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, thanks for that.
No worries.
Let's have our next voice note, and this one is from Greg.
Dear Jill, I'm feeling incredibly conflicted and guilty right now, and I'm not sure who to talk to about this. I've been in a committed relationship for a few years, and I love my partner, but recently I made a huge mistake. I cheated. One kiss, and I deeply regret it. But I can't stop thinking about how I've hurt my partner and betrayed their trust. I'm not sure what to do next. Part of me wants to confess and take responsibility for my actions, but I'm terrified of losing the person I love. Another part of me wonders if keeping it a secret is better, since it was a mistake, and I don't want to destroy everything. How do I deal with this guilt? And what's the best way to move forward from here?
Okay. So, Greg, thank you first of all for being so honest and reaching out. I don't think your partner will gain anything from knowing that you kissed someone. I think the feeling that you have of maybe wanting to tell him would only be to alleviate your guilt and to release something in yourself. And my instinct is that the accountability that you have to take for doing what you did is to keep that knowledge to yourself. And that might feel really uncomfortable to you, because it sounds like what you're saying is you're normally like a very honest person and you feel like you've betrayed someone's trust, but I don't understand what your partner could possibly gain from knowing that information. And if it was a mistake, it was a one-off, it was a kiss, I don't think that that's any reason to destroy a good relationship if that's what you feel like you're in. I think lots of people make mistakes, and you know what? I'm not trying to make light of somebody doing something that doesn't align with who they are. It's just that I just don't feel that this needs to be brought into a relationship if that relationship is good and solid. Maybe you could ask yourself why you think you did it. Have you thought about doing it before? Have you come close to doing it before? Is that something you need to think about? Is it something you need to, look at when you're out, what you're drinking and how your behavior changes when you drink? I don't know. These are just questions. I'm certainly not like judging it. But I think that's the only work that needs to be done. Maybe just asking yourself maybe why you were in that position in the first place. But I think protecting your partner from that, I think is really important if you want to go forward. And unfortunately, when we make mistakes, and believe me, I've made many, I think that's part of the accountability that you have to bear it. You have to carry that, and just getting it off your chest is only for you. It's only for the benefit of you, and not for your partner. There's a really famous relationship expert, Esther Perel, and I love her so much. But she talks a lot about affairs and in relationships, and how even with something like that, it wouldn't have to be the end of a relationship. Obviously, probably there you are going to talk about it and you are going to be in communication about it. But it's funny, we have this idea that being physical with another person and cheating in that way is just the worst kind of way you could possibly be with someone in a relationship. But I think, disdain, ignoring, not being present, talking behind, I think all of these things are worse and more hurtful to a relationship. I think the physical stuff, it's like I said, it's something to question if that's what you're doing. But I actually think in the grand scheme of things, that kind of stuff is probably less hurtful and painful, or less destructive than some of the other stuff that goes on. But certainly in our society, a kiss or a touch or a snog, or God forbid something else, it seems like the worst. I mean, Emma, I know this is a weird dilemma, but if I could say to you that, right, your partner is going to cheat on you, and he's either going to have a one-off, one-night stand, have sex with someone though, or for a few months he's going to get very, very close to somebody and kind of emotionally offload to them, and they're going to share a lot of information with each other and sort of have deep communication. Which one are you going to go for?
That is the hardest thing in the world. I've never thought of it like that. Neither is the answer, but I couldn't. What about you?
Well, as time's gone on, I think maybe when I was younger, I might have gone for I'd rather he had a one-night stand. I'm sorry, I'd rather he had the emotional affair. But now I think I'd rather the one-night stand, because that's what I mean. I think I can see now as I've got older that physically things can happen, and although I would not like it, I would find it very, very difficult. Believe me, I am not saying I could easily get over this, but I think that feels less of a betrayal than somebody becoming very, very close emotionally to somebody and maybe revealing things about themselves and divulging things that they haven't even told me. And because that closeness is there's something very intimate about that, and it's probably something that I would find harder than just we fell into bed together, it happened and it'll never happen again. But I'm the same as you. I wouldn't want either, believe me. It's just interesting, and listening to Esther Perel as well, she talks about that a lot, and she's made me think about it in a different way and go, yeah, actually, it's funny it's funny some of the things we will put up with in a relationship. And yet weirdly, oh, they snogged someone or they got off with someone is the end. It's like, oh, really? What about the things they've said to you, the disdain they've had for you, the way they've ignored? I mean, all of these things, but you know, it feels weirdly like in our society, certainly, that the physical touch seems like the
That's
biggest
it.
betrayal. It's maybe the one that the ego finds the hardest, I think.
That's it.
Yeah.
Even though my bum is squeaking at both of them. That is, honestly, I'm trying to really think and be like, I really want to come out with something whimsical here. I'm really going to, and I can't.
No.
I can't.
It's really, you know, no one wants to be in that situation, and it's hard even to imagine how you're going to feel. But it is interesting when you think about it, because, you know, like that sort of carnal pleasure and just that sort of instinctive, there's a bit of chemistry there and you lock lips with someone. I mean, what does it really mean? It's like a moment in time, isn't it?
So you're
My boyfriend will be listening to this going, hang on a minute.
man.
Are you sure she's doing a podcast? And she leaves every week.
So you're saying to Greg, the kiss is okay?
I'm saying that he has to question about why he did that. And it's he definitely should think about that. I'm not saying, hey, don't worry. I'm saying, think about why you did it. Think about your behavior. Maybe confide in, if you need to, a professional about something. But whatever you do, don't put that guilt onto your partner. Don't bring that situation into your relationship, because you're going to cause pain, you're going to cause hurt, you're going to cause distrust. So if you can get to the point where you say to yourself, I really think that was a one-off. I don't believe I'll ever do it again. I don't think it's worth relieving yourself of your guilt to make your partner feel that bad, because I think that could really pull a thread that might not need to be pulled. But if he finds himself doing it another time and another time, then you're going to be in trouble, and then it's becoming a behaviour then.
See, I want to say, well, you have done it, so go and tell her, because she deserves to know. If you were the girl or the partner, would you want to know?
So if my boyfriend did it.
Yeah, and it was the one, he didn't think it would ever happen again, would you want to know?
I don't think I would. I just think, what do I gain from that? What do I gain? I gain upset, paranoia, jealousy, distrust, maybe doubt. But then what? So I have all of those, and then I go, oh, but at least he was honest. Yeah, but he's given me all of those things to deal with. So if I trust that he's in charge of his behaviour and he will take accountability for it, I would hope that he would think, that's just not worth ruining a relationship for. So I'll just make sure I never do that again. It's a hard thing to have to. I'm an honest person, so I wouldn't want to have to live with that. But that's why I say, well, you did it, so you live with it. And don't put that onto your partner. If you think that this relationship has got legs and you love this person, then, you know, don't hurt them.
But if they loved them, they wouldn't have done it.
That is like a different question in itself, isn't it? If you love someone, does that mean you never behave badly, or you never behave out of alignment with that love? I'm not sure anymore, but that's just where I am in my head these days. I used to think that if you love someone, you wouldn't do this. And now I'm like, well, I don't know. I think you can love someone and still behave badly.
I love how calm you are about this. Is honestly, this is so well, you know, open and honest.
I'm not saying it's right.
No,
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that I think those two things can be I think you can love someone and be very, very happy, and then you can go out to somewhere, an event, a work thing, and you can wake up the next day, you've had alcohol in your body, you think, what happened? What did I do? And that's why I said, if that was me, if I was Greg, I'd be thinking, if that's what I'm capable of doing when I put alcohol, whatever, in my body, whatever else you would do, then maybe that's one of the things I should take out of my life then, because I would rather behave in a way that I'm really proud of. And if that means I have to remove something from my life, then that's what I've got to do. rather than, oh, I'm a terrible person, I've got to tell my partner. I'd say, well, maybe you have to change something about yourself first.
You're always
I
looking
know.
within. Always looking within. I'm ready. I'm gonna knock them out, me. I'm not really.
Who
Greg.
was she? What does she look like?
I'll find her.
Yeah, where does she live? See, this is my other beef, isn't it? Because I hate it when the person goes, if your partner said, I kissed someone, my beef is you getting too bothered about who she was, not about what he did.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm like, this is not the focus.
Takes
The
two to tango,
The
doesn't
focus
it?
is him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Unless it was Stephen Mulhern, and then you'd be like, well,
Green flag.
you've got to pass.
It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead. Be my guest. Do it again if you
Yeah.
want.
Did you get a picture? Did you get a video?
Yeah. Send it over.
Well, that was a nice mixed bag, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for being so honest and open. And we will see you to give you some more help. See you. Bye.